A little early. So good morning, everybody. Glad everybody's here. And like I mentioned, I'm going to give a little bit of insight on how to have a more abundant life. We're going to bring on Desi, hopefully in Florida, to talk about a property he's visiting that he took back by way of foreclosure or deed in lieu, I guess, on a note.
Yeah, I'm here. So that's
hey,
awesome.
Desi's there. Desi's there. Good. And then after Desi, we're going to have Chante come on and we can do those in any order, Des, because I see that you're driving, so whatever's comfortable. But I'm going to show a little bit of a PowerPoint presentation. It'll take me about 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Then I was going to bring you on, Desi, and you can explain what you're doing out there in Florida, and then Chante. Does that work?
Yeah, that works for me. Thank you. I'll watch your presentation for this week. That's awesome.
Yeah, not really much of a presentation, but I was reminded of this James Ray seminar I went to back in the day. I don't know if anybody of you know James Ray, but I'm going to share my screen here. Can you guys see that? Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, cool. Well, I was just laughing because I don't know what brought him to mind, but if those of you who don't ever know who James Ray was, he was like a famous motivator. And he was a guy that was doing these huge conferences around the country, kind of like a Tony Robbins guy. And he was making a name for himself. He certainly was. He was on television shows and interviewed by Oprah and all this great stuff. And he was a little overboard with his tactics. And I don't know if anybody remembers, but he ended up getting sued and pretty much took his whole empire down because he had injured some people unintentionally by creating an Indian sweat tent out in the middle of Sedona, Arizona for a spiritual uplifting thing where people paid thousands of dollars to go out in the middle of the desert with him. And not to laugh about it, but people got really injured and had some bad problems from that because they were passing out and things and dehydrated. But that's not the whole point of the story. James Ray was no longer after that, and he hasn't been anybody since then. That's not the point of this. But the point of this is that I got a really good message. I went to one of his conferences years ago, and I still think about this all the time. So at least I got one good message from the guy. But the keys to having a more abundant life, it's not about the money. And I know that some of you understand that fully. It's not about the money, guys. There's a couple different things that it's about, and here they are. But friends are very important. Family, your health, money's in there. It's a big important part of things. Growth and your well-being, your mental well-being. These all tie together, guys. These all tie together to have an abundant life, a really abundant life. And I know that you've all met people that have one out of these 6 things really dialed in. I mean, we're talking top 1% of the world dialed in, right? You got people that have thousands of friends because they're just hugely popular. You got people that just their family environment, their family upbringing and structure is amazing. Or people that are so healthy and you look up to them by physique or health-wise. Same with really super ultra wealthy people. Point being made, guys, if you have one of these things super dialed in, but in order to do that, you let go of the others, you certainly won't have an abundant life. We all know the cliche of people saying, wow, I know that guy who's so rich, or that gal that's so rich financially. Man, they got a Ferrari and a yacht and all the neat stuff, but they're miserable. So that's not a very abundant life. When we're talking about friends, you guys, the friends you can really count on, not the fact that we have, 4,900 Facebook friends these days. Those aren't true friends. But friends speak highly of each other. So I want you to look in your own life at who you consider to be your friends. And on a two-way street, when they're not around, are you talking very highly about them, saying good things about them? And do you think that they would be doing the same to you if you're not around? Friends do that, right? Friends motivate each other. If you're not hanging around with the right people, they can bring you down. If you are hanging out with the right people, they can bring you up. And friends really reflect, your friends you hang out with on a constant basis, folks, reflect the value you see in yourself. And oftentimes we surround ourselves with friends that reflect who we see ourselves to be on the inside. And so think about who your friends are. It's very important. Your family's irreplaceable, guys. Different than friends. They're your blood. There's only one Aunt Jan. There's only one mother, father, brother, sister. There's only one. And treat them very, very important. They should be cherished. Family should be a future thought. Think about that. Family should be a future thought. There were generations years ago that were thinking about the future, and that's why they did things like protect our freedoms, go to war, fight battles. It was future thinking. I think everybody's thinking more so in the now today and not really thinking in the future. Things are getting a little selfish. And think about your family in the future, right? Even when you're gone, think about your family, because there's only one. And your family is a built-in tribe. Everybody talks about trying to gather a tribe, make new friends, gather potential investor partners. Well, you got a built-in tribe. If you cherish and treat your family right, you can do a lot of things together. The money part is 100% necessary. Everybody knows that. It's just not the most important thing. Money can be liberating, but it also can be confining. People who make a lot of money talk about being financially free, but I also see a lot of people that make a lot of money and in the process get confined by it and forget to have a good life outside of the love of money. And that's a bad thing. And listen, guys, money's not real. And I love that statement. Money's not real. I heard that the other day on a social media post, but it's not anymore. It's not anymore. Money's not real. Money's numbers on, numbers on computer systems is what the money is. There's no gold that backs the cash. They just printed $3 trillion. So money's not even real. So think about that. To make it should be easier when you think that it's not real. It used to be such a big, huge thing to be a millionaire. And now millionaires are few and far. I mean, millionaires are not few and far between, but all over the place now, right? The new trend is to be a billionaire. I mean, that's crazy. But the money should be treated as a game or as a sport, right? It's fun, and you should try to get as much of it as you can. And you can't really do much to help friends. And you can't really do much to help family or anybody for that matter without the money. So sure it's important, but guys, it's just one of these things. Health. Well, gosh, obviously your health is pretty much everything. Without your health, you die. And then it didn't matter about the money, right? Your friends and family will miss you, but health allows you to enjoy life. I watch Desi when I get to the office sometimes, and Desi's 68 now, and jogs up and down the stairs. And I'm always asking him, he can take the elevator, he can walk. He's always jogging up and down the stairs. Why? He says, because I'm healthy enough to be able to do it right now. Someday I won't be healthy enough to do it. And I'll regret that when I was healthy enough, I didn't do it. So, you guys stay healthy. It's truly vital, no pun intended there, but it also allows you to have an energetic process. So if you're healthy, you can accomplish more. If you're healthy, you feel more motivated. If you're healthy, you actually give off a better vibe to others around you. And all of that helps, especially when you're trying to have more friends and get more money. Growth, what humans strive for. Without growth and without achievement, feeling achievement and growing, maturing, changing, humans get very depressed. It's a part of human psyche that we need to have rewards and we need to get better in life. If we stay stuck, that's a lot of time what causes depression. And isn't that crazy? The people that are in the 9-to-5 world, like I was my whole life, and people talk about getting stuck in the cubicle. The reason is because if there never is any more advancement left for you at your job, right? If you've gotten to a certain managerial position where you're not going to take over the vice president, you're not going to be the CEO of the company, there's already guys there and they're not going to let you get further. You're kind of stuck in that same position, same income level, same day to day. Sometimes it gets to be mentally defeating. It's essential to success, growing, changing, and having successes along the way. And it really changes who a person is. So as you grow, as you change, as you accomplish things, you literally change, and you won't be the same person 3 to 5 years later because of that. If you stay stagnant, you don't grow, you don't change, and nothing changes for the better in your life, being in the same suckville, as they call it, 5 years from now, is defeating. Doesn't help. And then well-being. Being happy is a choice, but I'm going to tell you this: it's very difficult, guys, to have a really good well-being and be happy inside and feel really fulfilled if the other things I've just spoken about are out of place. If your friend circle is terrible, brings you down, if your family life is bad and you're not working on that to fix it, if your money's tight and you're always thinking about how it is to be broke, if your health is out of line and you always feel tired and sluggish and all that, it's very difficult to have a good mindset and have well-being, internal well-being. And what's on the inside also reflects on the outside, guys. And if you want to do good in business, you have to reflect confidence and energy on the outside, and it's tough to do so if your mind's not in the game. So anyways, guys, that's my little bit. To create an abundant life, you need to spend equal amounts of time and energy nurturing all of those things. Not all day long chasing the money, not all day long building a note business and forget about your family, your friends, and those kinds of things, because maybe you can end up wealthy, but unhappy. So be careful not to let too much of one of those items take away from the others. But that's just my little spiel for today. Appreciate you listening in on that, and hopefully a little bit of motivation, guys. Treat all those things with the same type of respect. If you're out there hustling to get the money, you should be out there hustling to make your family life better, out there hustling to make sure your friends know that you're there for them, and all of that. And boy, at the end of the day, over time, you'll be happier and happier and more well-centered. But that's my spiel. I see that Desi's on the phone in the car. But anyways, I hope that helped you guys with a little bit of inspiration, motivation today, some feel good. And Des, if you want to come in and tell us what you're doing on the road out there in Florida and give us the skinny on this deal that you're doing out there.
Hey, yeah. Patrick, that was awesome. Thank you so much. I wish we had recorded last week too, but at least we got it done this week. And yeah, I'm driving here. I'm in Florida. Melbourne is where I was just at. We were staying at a Hyatt down there someplace near Melbourne. I came out here because I have a property that we took back in pre-foreclosure, so that was the whole deal. Yeah, and I assume I'm coming through okay right now, right, Patrick?
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay, good, yeah. So guys, I just want you guys to know that sometimes you have to just kind of step out there and say, okay, I'm going to go and do something that I don't normally do. For me, this is only the second time that I've ever had to visit a property in 9 years. But I was having trouble. I can't get people to call back. Since January, both Sarah and I have been calling contractors and calling roofers. We got the property back. It's vacant. And the handyman, we're just trying to find anybody that would work with us, but people don't call back. That's really sad to say. And so I decided that what I was going to do was I was going to jump on a plane, come out here, and stand in front of Home Depot if I had to, which by the way I did. And I actually found somebody in front of Home Depot that's supposed to come out and take a look at the place on Tuesday. I won't be here, but just the point is that not every deal is going to work out perfectly where you're going to get this very nice place back. As it turns out, we got this place back. It's a commercial place. It's zone commercial and residential. So my goal when I came out here was to do several things. One is I wanted to really assess what we have, right? Tell me what we got. And so I spent a lot of time in the property. I even drew out a floor plan of the property, a layout, got some measurements just to see what I was working with. And then I spent some time with the city because I wanted to know the zoning and what this property could be used for, because I'm going to hire a real estate agent to sell it for me. And I wanted to be able to tell the agent, these are acceptable uses, these are not acceptable uses, because with commercial properties, sometimes you have to, well, not sometimes, most of the time, there's a use, there are use restrictions. And so I wanted to know what those were. I thought the city would give us just a few minutes. They had people there from 2 different departments to talk with me, and they gave us almost an hour. And they were super nice people, and they laid out for me what we could and could not do. Yeah, I can see. And that worked out really nice. So we spent time with the city. When I first got there, I met with the code inspector because we have some code violations against this property that need to be dealt with. And it was supposed to have been dealt with by late March. I couldn't get it done. They extended it to early May, May 6th, I think is what it is. And I just still couldn't find any good contractors. And so what I did is when I was coming out here, I called the code enforcement, and the officer that had cited our property met me at the property, walked me through it, and basically said, look, I just want to get this thing off my books, okay? You know, you don't need to put the roof leaks, patch it. You don't need to put a whole new roof on. And he showed me on a shed that we have on this property. It's rotted at the bottom. He said, look, just cut off the bottom 3 feet, put some fresh wood on there and paint it. And I'm good with that. And he says, then I can sign off on it and we're done. And so I was happy to hear that, because prior to that, I was really thinking that we were dealing with something much more. So then I set out to try to find myself a roofer who would work with me. And that's almost impossible out here in Florida right now. Roofers apparently are in high demand. They're super busy. Hey, Patrick, can you still hear me? Because my phone just went dark on me.
Yes, I can.
Okay, good. All right.
And we can still see you too.
Oh, okay, perfect. I don't know what's happening on my end, but that's okay. Anyway, the roofers are just almost impossible to find. But as I said, going into Home Depot, I met a guy, a young guy. It was 3 of them walking in together, and I saw they got out of a work truck, so I just chased them down. I got a business card. He said his dad would reach out to me Tuesday, and they would maybe go out and take a look. And I was thinking, okay, so maybe I got something going here. I was going to do some of the work myself, like cutting that thing, cutting off the 3 feet of that shed and just putting some more wood on there. I could do that. I've done it before on other properties when I was flipping houses. And so I was going to do that. But if they're going to do it, I'll just let them do it, because I'd have to rent tools and get dirty. I'm not in the real estate business anymore. I don't want to get dirty. I know that sounds terrible, but I don't want to. So as it turns out, I was ready to get
Uh-oh. No. Oh, shoot. We lost you, Desi. Driving in Florida. Uh-oh. Oh, darn. Des, we lost you, buddy. We lost you, dude. Oh, bummer. Well,
Patrick, why don't you try texting him fast and telling him?
yeah. He's definitely completely gone, frozen. I can't even mute him. Interesting. Okay. Well, anyways, Desi was getting into a really great story there, and then he is goners. Well, listen, it's funny. He has Verizon, and every time we go out there, we went to Disney World twice. And we've been out there for a conference, I think twice. And every time we go out there, my Verizon phone, it only works in super duper patchy areas, man. Like for 2 blocks, it'll work perfect. And then you'll just be driving down the road. The other 2 blocks, it has no bars. And you're going, what's going on with the cell phone towers over here? No clue. So that's what just happened to Desi, unfortunately. He'll probably come back on when he gets reception, but until then, we move forward. So, hey, Chante, get on here and thank you for coming on, of course, but get on here, tell everybody who's Chante Duffy. Some people on here know you, some people don't, and then we'll get into like why you left Madison and opened your own gig, and I can't wait to hear the updates. So please take the floor from me.
Thank you. So for those of you who don't know me, I am Chante Duffy. I am the VP of Operations of ByFi Loan Servicing, as well as one of the owners. I've been in the servicing space for just under 10 years now. So it's been a long, fun ride. To be totally honest, I knew nothing about, being a note investor, servicing, none of that. total transparency, I had my son, stayed home for a year, and was totally not cut out to be a stay-at-home mom. So I was like, I just need to go back into the work field. Had no idea what I wanted to do. Just knew that I needed something that kind of was like a 9 to 5. I get to go home, see him at night and things like that, have my weekends and holidays off. And I just grew to love this space. So most of my knowledge and experience has actually been hands-on working for a servicer. I worked for Madison Management Services, which many of you do, I think, know from some of the names I'm seeing, for a little over 8 years. And that's kind of where I just climbed the ladder, started to grow, and I fell in love with working with investors. So I did a lot more of the investor relations. I was not the one calling borrowers unless I absolutely had to. That is definitely not my forte, but there's other staff there. And then Madison moved. They did move to Nevada. I'm in New Jersey, born and raised. I tried a hot second to move down to Florida, definitely hated it, and came right back home. And it became a little bit like harder, just, having 2 different offices, different staff and different locations. And I hated working from home. We shut down the Jersey office in the first year of COVID. And of course, I can realistically do my job anywhere, but being home is not, all the time, not for me. So I kind of started to get a little bored, a little antsy. And then just kind of realized that I think I should do something different. It was almost just like, I need change. And that just is kind of how it came about. There is absolutely no bad blood with Madison. I love Kevin and Sadna dearly. They're like family to me. I still talk to them. I was talking to Sadna earlier this week because it was my birthday. So there's no bad blood. I honestly was just like, I need a break. And when people started to realize that I was leaving, when I had to kind of like make the announcement and add it to my signature on my email, people were really upset. I didn't realize that so many people would be upset, and they had so many questions as to what I was doing. And I genuinely just gonna take a break. I had money saved and just kind of spend some time with my son. And then I had a few investors who didn't like that answer. And they kind of were like, Shanté, you can't leave the servicing space. And I'm like, what do you mean I can't? Like, I definitely can. And then it got to, they started to ask me those difficult questions. What are you going to do? Where do you want to be? And I'm like, I don't know. They're like, but this is what you're good at and you love it. And it took some, pulling and tweaking. And I had an opportunity where it was, hey, why don't you just start your own? And a lot of people said that to me. I was just kind of like, absolutely not. There's a lot of, requirements. It's, federally regulated and things like that. I have to worry about every state. It's just a big undertaking. And I was like, no way, there's no way I want to do that. And I ended up with 2 business partners, Christopher Seveny and Jamie Bateman, who were like, we'll give you the money if you run it. And so I thought about it. And then I sat here and was like, right, if I'm going to do this, it has to be better than, what I was doing. And it wasn't mostly for like competition. It was more of, I dealt with every investor. So anytime there was a problem, they were upset, whether it was their loan base, they didn't like what was going on with, their attorneys or the, customer service reps that were working their loans. Those problems fell into my plate. So I actually created a list over 8 years of every issue that investors had. And I was like, all right, if I'm going to do this, servicers, I always tell everybody, like, you guys don't like us, you need us. And I have a really big problem with that. I don't want to just be needed. I want to be like wanted. So those were some, big pillars that I had to sit down and think about. And then I sat with a whole bunch of investors that I've known for years who I knew could be unfiltered on a Zoom call. I didn't want any sugarcoating. I didn't care what servicer they were talking about. I just wanted to know what they liked and what they didn't like and where their problems were. So for like 4 hours one day, I was on the phone with about 8 different investors, and they all just kind of gave me their input. Obviously, communication was number one. I don't think there's enough communication in this space, and I was trying to figure out how to like bridge that gap and fill that hole. Then of course, just like smaller things, dealing with, not smaller, but dealing with escrow, bankruptcy. Some servicers are really good at one thing, but maybe not the best at others. And I really kind of sat back and looked at that list, compared it to the list I had for 8 years. And I was like, I think I can do this. And we kind of just hit the ground running. It was not anything I ever had planned. I didn't expect to be here today. So I'm very excited, happy, glad I took the opportunity, but it is hard, it is difficult. And of course, I'm a people pleaser. So I want to make sure that everybody is happy and they're liking, what they're getting out of ByFi. So it's been a huge eye opener, to say the least. And we're nowhere near done. So just take it one day at a time.
Last time we talked, congratulations on all the success, by the way. And last time we spoke, you guys were getting like licensed. You guys were starting to knock out state by state. You were getting licensed in each state to be a licensed debt collector, going through that, acquiring more and more states. How's that going now? Are you guys all over the map, or are there certain
Yeah.
states you're not in yet? Give us that skinny.
We are in 26 states today. We are currently working on the state of Pennsylvania, which has just been a nightmare. The state of Florida and California. Those are the next three that we want, that I want, that I get a lot of feedback from. But overall, we're in the states that, I've seen a lot of investors that I've known for years after going, to No Expo, and I just said DME and IMN. We're in a pretty good set of states. We kind of stay away from the New England area just because we don't know many people that buy up there. And if they do, they buy like one. To me, as of right now, it's not worth it, but my big goal is to be 50 state licensed, New York included. So there, we're at 26. We have a few more pending. They're in the works with the states. There's a lot of work that goes behind licensing, which I'm going to be honest with you, at Madison, I didn't have to deal with. So it was definitely a curveball, kind of being the person that has to handle all of that now. I've learned a lot. These states kind of do their own thing. No state is the same. Some states are super easy. Some states are a little bit more difficult. I know I struggled a little bit with Georgia just because they're one of those people, if you reach out just to kind of get a status update, they're like, oh, you asked, we're going to put you to the bottom of the list, and you kind of have to wait. They all kind of do their own things. So it's been fun, hard, but exciting at the same time. So, licensing was definitely a huge undertaking that I knew nothing about. So that was a huge learning curve for me, but here I am 26 states later, I'm surviving. So
That's so cool. You also, last time we spoke, it shows you how long it's been, I guess. Time flies, but you were just acquiring those states and such, but also you were going like, hey man, I'm also becoming a note investor because I've seen all these other people do it. I've serviced all their loans. I've seen them make all this money. I'm going to be a note investor, and you were getting into it. How's that gone?
So the promise I made myself was before my 30th birthday this year, which was actually Monday, that I'd have a note. So I actually have a note in the state of New York that I got suckered into buying. I'm not sure why I kind of just like dove head first. New York is like the one state I know nothing about, but it was, a challenge, and I was like, challenge accepted. Just taking it straight through foreclosure. Granted, it's been weird, being in the space and watching everybody else deal with their notes and talking to their borrowers and the exit strategies. And I'm over here like, yeah, and everyone's asking me like advice and questions. I'm like, well, try this, try this. And I'm like, why don't you have your own? So when early this year that kicked off, it was one of those, we can't carry out 2022 without Chante at least having one. And I'm doing due diligence on another New York loan as we speak. So apparently I'm drawn to New York right now.
Some people hear New York and foreclosure and they start to run for the hills.
Mm-hmm.
So you're playing with the foreclosure in New York?
Yes.
That could be its own subject in itself. I heard foreclosures could take like 6 years over there.
They can. This one's a little bit of an odd situation in the sense, the property's vacant. There was new rulings in the courts that kind of actually almost made this not able to go through foreclosure, like it just kind of like a done deal. And because of a new law that passed, I'm able to actually take this through to foreclosure. The property's been vacant for years. So I happen to get lucky, and it's just over that new court ruling that I just have to restart it, but statute of limitations changed for this area. So I was like, let's try it. I couldn't say no. It was very cheap, off the strength that you really couldn't do anything with it. And then just talking to an attorney, I was like, oh, wow. So I'm trying. And my whole thing is New York is the one state I know nothing about. So any investors that ask me a question, I'm like, I have no idea. So why not learn where I completely know nothing instead of like, oh, this is how it is in Ohio or Illinois and things like that. So I like challenges, and apparently just like to keep taking them on as time goes by.
So haves and wants, Chante wants people who are really, really smart at New York notes to give her a call, give her some help and advice on those. But the question back to, and congratulations by becoming a note investor too, right?
Thank you.
Just 1 year since you told me last time, I'm going to become a note investor. You're going on your second one. And, it's funny that you said that. You have to put yourself out there. There's a bunch of people who on this call have purchased their very first note while in our coaching group. So we've seen it happen with tons and tons of people. There's some people that haven't bought their very first note yet, and they're waiting to like buy their first one. And for everybody, including Shanté, who's been in the business for ages, is it's scary. I don't care who you are. It's a little bit nerve-wracking to put your 20K, 30K, 50K, whatever it is, out into a note deal for the very first time. And that's just with everybody. And, by the time you've done your 10th note deal, you're like, you want to do 100 of them. It's like riding a bike. But that first one or two, it does make people a little nervous and cinch you up a little bit. So good job on that. Digress back to the servicing, right? So somebody maybe say is going to buy their first note. Perfect leeway. And they buy their first note and they think, well, gosh, I've heard this, I've heard the issues, if there are any, but I've heard the issues from other people that they may have with Madison or FCI or any of the other servicing companies that are out there that are sort of the most popular ones, right? And they say, well, wait a second, if my note I'm buying falls into Shanté's 26 states that she's got approved with, man, maybe I want to go with Chante. She was really great at Madison management. Maybe she is doing it better. So somebody wants to get involved with you and create a relationship with you as their servicing company. How do they go about doing that?
First things first, I tell everybody to shoot me an email. Just email servicing@byfils.com. It's easier to email first because what I like to do is set up calls, whether I know you or I don't. I just like to kind of talk to everybody, whether they're brand new, experienced, doesn't matter, just fill them in, figure out what their expectations are. That is very, very important. I never want to sell somebody something that we don't actually do. And I don't want you to, this industry is all word of mouth. So someone's going to tell you we do something, we might not. I want to make sure that it's clearly understood. But on our website, which is byfils.com, all of the documentation that every investor needs to set up with a servicer or with ByFi, it's all located there and you can complete it electronically. I try to make it as user-friendly as possible. You just kind of have to go through, make sure you read everything you're signing. I can't stress that enough. Most people don't, and then they kind of get confused down the road. But we require a servicing agreement, a W-9, an ACH form, and a power of attorney. That will get your loan set up and have everything ready to go. I always advise people, whether you have no notes at the moment, but you're bidding on tapes and things like that, just set yourself up with a servicer. It doesn't have to be ByFi, but if you're looking at notes in the state of Georgia, make sure you find a licensed servicer in the state of Georgia and just set yourself up. Most of us don't charge you anything to sign up. So just set whatever entity you're purchasing your loans under, just set it up so that it's there. It'll be, inactive until you're ready to actually start boarding your notes and things with them. I always tell everybody, just sign up right away. You can forget about it. If you don't buy a note for another 6 months, that is okay. The information's there and there won't be any delays when you do actually buy that note. Some of these service transfers happen pretty quickly and some of them can take forever. It just kind of depends on every servicer's transfer out process and then the servicer's transfer in process. So I always tell everybody, just set up, if nothing else. I've had people who set up in November, December, and don't have a note today, and that's okay. It's just an inactive account until you bring something to us. So just set up first and foremost. And then of course there's the documentation as to what you need to do when you do have a loan ready to be boarded and serviced. We require every lender to complete a loan setup form. That again is on the website. It's under the word investor. So you just scroll through that page. Every document you will ever need is there. It lets us know that, hey, I know Smitty just messaged, one of my favorite people. Hello, Smitty. You fill this out and it basically lets me know that, Smitty has a loan that he wants serviced with ByFi. It's located in this state. It's going under this entity. And he actually gets to pick the servicing program and gives us a little bit of information about the loan. So we know what we're walking into. So he'll let me know if it's a land contract or if it's a conventional note mortgage, the lien position, if it's a HELOC, things like that. He'll let me know what services he also wants. So he'll let me know, hey, it's performing and I want escrow services, or hey, I need loss mitigation on this loan, the borrower's not paying, or hey, it's in an active foreclosure already, I need you to handle it. Or if you guys know your loan is in bankruptcy, we do double check that on every single loan that comes through our door. But if you already know ahead of time, it gives us a little bit of a leg up. So it just kind of gives us some background as to what you're actually boarding. And then at that point, you should be notifying your seller or your current servicer to begin the transfer process. I will not approve a loan transfer from another servicer and without having that loan set up form at the very, very least.
Shanté, I'll have a question for you, but Susan actually raised her hand, so we'll let her, she has a question for you.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Susan.
Hi, Shanté. It's good to see you again.
Hello.
My question is, how do you get the borrower or the homeowner to pay the servicing fee monthly? And what happens if the monthly servicing fee changes?
That is like my favorite question. So I'm so glad that you asked because it's been a recurring question recently. Naturally, on the loans that are already existing, so these loans were originated in 2009, 10, 11, 12, whenever, even earlier, usually borrowers do not pay servicing fees. It's not written in their contract. You actually can't force a borrower to pay something that is not outlined in their promissory note specifically. However, I have plenty of lenders who do a lot of seller financing. I just met a gentleman last month when I was in Florida. He does seller financing out of the state of Michigan. And he actually writes in his notes that the borrower is responsible for either X amount of dollars for their servicing fee or up to a certain amount. The reason he does that is because every servicer has different fees, right? So I know at Madison, a performing loan with escrow is $35 a month. But I know at ByFi, a performing loan with escrow is $25. So it has to be written in their contract, whether you create an amendment to the note. If you modify, people throw that in there. It has to be spelled out to where the borrower is signing and acknowledging that they are responsible for that servicing fee. But majority of loans don't have that.
Awesome. That you did answer a question in the chat from Stacy, but yeah, so you can modify, right? You're the lender, you can always modify, but what she's saying is that you can't force it unless the actual language in the notes specifies that they're responsible for it. Yeah, and now, Shanté, I've heard like a gray area though, right? That you can ask them to pay it. You can't force them, but if you ask them to pay it and they do, then that's okay, I've heard. Is that correct?
It is, but here's where your servicers run into an issue. If your borrower's monthly P&I payment is $500, and let's say they send an extra $25 to cover the cost of servicing, as a servicer, I have no idea where that $25 is supposed to go because it's not, your loan is set up per the note or that modification. So naturally, if the borrower is contractually current and they're paying, we're going to sit here and be like, okay, well, they can kind of do a principal pay down. That it should always be spelled out. I will never know. No one in my staff would ever really know, especially accounting when they're applying payments, would ever know that the borrower agreed to pay it. I always say get it in writing so that we can add that to the loan itself in our software.
Interestingly, interesting question that's coming up in my head then about the escrow account. So like if you're escrowing so that by the end of the year, there's enough money to cover taxes and insurance, then could you also escrow that and then pay yourself back after the end of the year?
It wouldn't be considered an escrow item. When we set it up, we have a section in our software that says other payment, and we can outline what that other payment is. Sometimes there's modifications that read, okay, this is P&I, this is escrow, but then this is going to be for something different, and that's what they're paying for the remainder of the loan. It has to be spelled out. I will never know, but it'll never be added as an escrow item. And one big thing that we do not add as an escrow item is forced place insurance. That is not considered escrow. If a borrower agrees to pay it back, we'll add it as the other payment, but it is never going to be escrowed through ByFi.
Got it. Awesome. Dante has a question. Go ahead and unmute, Dante.
Hey, how's it going? Hi, Ms. Chante.
Hi.
Question. When you was going through the process of already building an account through your loan servicing business, I tried buying my first note and had a rough time due to equity trust, and I guess my account rep gave me all my information to give to my loan servicer. Yeah, how do we work with third-party exchanges and stuff?
So we work with all different, IRA company custodians. So equity trust is not foreign to me. I have a few investors who have their accounts set up with us. What I've noticed, because you're not the only person that's had some pushback from the custodian. A lot of my clients just fill out the servicing agreement themselves. I don't actually know if that's allowed by your custodian. But it's not any different than if you had an LLC set up. You still have to get set up. You would just give us your entire, IRA name. And of course, they'll fill out a W-9 for you. The only thing that's different is the ACH form. And the reason being is when you sign up for ACH through ByFi, that allows us to direct deposit your borrower's funds to you, but also to pull your monthly invoicing from you at the same time. So Equity trust will only allow, deposits through, which we will send them electronically. Nobody wants to wait for a check. That's up to the USPS, and that just takes forever. So we do direct deposit. The difficult side is getting the payments. So I have lenders who sometimes will pay us directly and then, notify Equity Trust or Quest or whoever, or they have Equity Trust send a direct, check for the monthly servicing fee, or because, it's performing and it should stay performing. I've had investors pay for the entire year. They've asked to be billed for 1 full year of, the standard servicing fee, so that they get one invoice, because they do understand that these custodians do charge you guys every time they have to cut a check. And sometimes, that fee, it's not really, no one really factors that in all the time when they're, bidding on their notes. It's not part of their calculations. And it is, it might be $10, but that's $120 a year. And that's just on, one loan. With invoices. So we work pretty well with them. It's pretty simple. There's no hiccup and change. We still talk to you. It's your loan. I don't want to talk to Equity Trust. I can't talk to Equity Trust about your loan. I have no issue sending them money though.
Okay, too easy. One
Yep.
other one, when it comes to third-party exchanges, like I tried going through Paperstac, and I like their flow, but it is difficult because you have to choose your service provider. Are you planning on getting registered with them and working with them to make the transfer easier? If that's what
So I'm
they.
gonna let you guys in on a little secret, because I am very good friends with the owners of Paperstac. And I just actually did some promotional stuff with them. They do promote ByFi. They do use ByFi as a preferred servicer, but they also have a list of other ones. We are set up. It's very simple. You just have to select ByFi as your option. Just note that if I know Paperstac has some things going on, so keep an eye out if you are ready or there, because they have some promotional videos that also kind of tie into ByFi, which is something I need to talk to Desi and Patrick about offline to do for you guys as well. Just, being part of this group, this mastermind, it's great. But we work with Paperstac, so if you ever have an issue, I have a direct line to a few of them. So I know when I have problems, because I look on Paperstac all the time. I just kind of reach out to them directly and get everything answered. So it can be a little bit difficult. Give them feedback. That's the number one thing I stress. You're absolutely allowed to give them feedback. They love it. They welcome it. We're all trying to be great for you guys at the end of the day. And I had a very long, extensive conversations with them last month, because we were all out in Florida. And just, how to make this, user friendly, easier to list as well as to buy.
Yeah, those guys are great out there. If you haven't met them, Dante, there's Brett and Rick. They're super cool dudes. Yeah, they owe me a t-shirt still, Shanté, too, by the way.
Oh, me too. They owe me about 3. So
Yeah,
I will text Brett and let him know.
Yeah, we're gonna give him some text after this for sure. Where's my
Yep.
shirt? So Susan had another question. Go ahead, Susan.
If you modify a loan, do you have to also modify the mortgage? And do you have to then register with the courthouse a new mortgage?
You don't modify the mortgage itself. The loan modification that you are creating after you and your borrower comes to terms, that should be recorded in the county though, because that actually negates the prior note. You're modifying it, which modifications are permanent. So it just needs to be sent to the county recorder to be recorded.
Very good.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Sandy was next.
Hi, Chante. Quick question. When you were talking about the servicing fees being included, is that included with the P&I or is that a separate line item?
It should be outlined as a separate line item, because again, if it's put as P&I, and the servicer is going to look at it and say, oh, $525 is P&I, and they're going to apply it to P&I. The amortization is going to be thrown off. So
Okay, so
it should be the borrower's principal and interest payment is $500. The
Right.
borrower is also responsible for escrow, where as of today, because escrow is always changing, as of today, it's $100. And then borrower is also responsible for a monthly servicing fee of, you could put a dollar amount, or up to is really where I see the most, up to max like $40.
So two
But,
questions. Can it be one-time payment instead of every month?
So here's the thing with a one-time payment. Let's say you created a modification today and it's still valid for another 10 years. Servicing fees are always going to change, especially what if you don't keep that loan at, like hypothetically, what if ByFi shuts down?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Where are you getting that payment? And no one's what's to say that this borrower is going to stay contractually current and paying? I've never seen someone pay one time. I'm not saying it's impossible. It just kind of seems like it shouldn't matter. Because again, servicing, if you say, okay, your servicing cost is $20 a month, and let's say you don't have escrow set up today, but down the road, you want to set up escrow. Okay, what do you, that extra $5 you're not getting? And what, let's say ByFi changes their fees in 5 years. Let's say our servicing goes from $20 to $30. You're still not getting enough. So you've only got, 10 years worth of servicing fees without factoring in if the loan's performing, non-performing, servicers change fees on their own, whim. I have no intention of changing mine anytime soon, but
Okay.
I would never say lump sum it. That's just my suggestion.
And then my other question would be, so if you don't do it that way, let's say they continue to pay their P&I, but stop paying that fee, how does that?
If it's written in the contract that they're supposed to, they're just how, borrower's supposed to maintain homeowners insurance, they're technically violating their contract.
Okay, but that wouldn't make them late on that payment, correct? Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Very cool. Good stuff. Stacy's up. Your hand's been up. Stace, go ahead.
Actually, I think Sandy just may have touched on my question. I was going to ask about if you are able to include that servicing fee in their monthly payment and they're late or something, or they only make a partial payment. I know a lot of times, servicing companies can be different, but the servicing company that I mostly work with, they will not accept a partial payment. So they hold it until a full amount is made to go to the next month's payment. So the question basically was, if that person only makes a partial payment or whatever, if they don't make enough to pay, servicing fee will be late.
So here's the thing. Technically, no servicer should ever be applying a partial payment, ever. So if your granted borrowers, there's times where borrowers are like $4 short and it can't get applied. When it comes to the servicing fee, if borrowers do things correctly, when we include it in, like it's written on the borrower statement, it's part of the total monthly amount that you owe. So if they send anything less than that, it is a red flag. We're the ones trying to chase it down and say, hey, like you're $10 short. We don't want to mess that up. We don't want borrowers to be like, if it ends up being that the only thing that they're missing is their is the servicing fee, we're talking to you as a lender about it and saying, look, I mean, realistically, you're still getting invoiced the servicing fee as the lender. You're just getting reimbursed when the borrower makes a payment. So when borrowers happen to stop paying, it doesn't mean that those fees aren't adding up and it's not included in the reinstatement and then payoff there, but you're still paying the servicing costs no matter what. Because at the end of the day, this service isn't for a borrower, it's for you guys. You need the servicer. The borrower doesn't necessarily need it. They do, but it's realistically for you guys. So you're still paying it. You're just going to end up getting reimbursed from the borrower. So we will touch base if the only thing that is missing is something like a servicing fee is when we touch base with you on. If the borrower is just short, the borrower is short. And at that point, we're chasing them down. Hey, why did you only pay 400, not 5? I can't do anything with that one.
Chante, thank you for that. And Sandy has another question. Go ahead, Sandy.
Yeah, so talking about the servicing fee, right? Is it better for us to just put that in as an expense into, with our taxes versus trying to get it from the client?
That's completely your choice. Me personally, just putting my investor hat on for a second, I don't have any intentions of making a borrower pay for something that I actually need as an investor. Like servicers keep your loan in compliance. That's their job. Right. Nothing in this world is free is kind of my mentality on it. So, some lenders are like, no, I need to have them pay. And I'm like, to me, that just seems too hairy of an issue when, let's say, switch it to another servicer, the loan goes non-performing, then what?
Right.
To me, it's just the cost of doing business. You guys, as you're bidding on your notes, should be factoring that in. To your bid calculators, whatever servicer you want to use, like check with their fees, their fee structure, and just make it make sense. But that's ultimately up to you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Very good. Smitty, what's up, buddy?
Hey man, how's it going? Hey Chante, got a
Hi.
question on occupancy checks. So like you got either a non-performer or a non-payer. Do you guys do occupancy checks automatically? Or is that something that we would need to refer or call you and say, hey, can you do an occupancy check?
It's not done automatically. But if you are talking to what we call my staff loan servicing account specialists, let them know that you have no idea if the property is occupant or vacant. occupied or vacant, and they will actually set in an order for you and have that go checked out to confirm. That stuff is not done automatically. That is a request. If I start sending people out to every property, everyone's going to be upset. So if it's something that you want, we can absolutely do that. We work with a few different third-party vendors for that, but let us know that, like, hey, I don't know if anyone's living in there and I need to find out, and we'll send somebody out right away.
Okay, and thank you. And then one more. What about if I wanted to, because some servicers, you don't talk to the borrowers like me as a lender. If I wanted to, I've got a loan with you guys and I wanted to talk with my client, how is that handled?
So there's a reason, and this again was a big tough spot for us to choose, because at Madison, and I know FCI also does this as well, you kind of have that no collection servicing option. That is a major liability on servicers. And I'm so not willing to lose my licenses on lenders talking to their borrowers, but like on their own. The reason being is I have no idea what you're saying to this person. And then you have them calling me back and my team, and we don't know which way is up. It's not unheard of. I would highly suggest you kind of get everybody on the call so we're all on the same page. So if you want to talk to your borrower, I'm not saying you can't, I'm suggesting you shouldn't. Granted, there's training and things like that that most investors don't have. But if you're eager to, talk to your borrower like that, just get your servicing account specialist on there too. They don't have to say anything. They can sit on mute, and at least it's recorded. We know that you're doing the right thing. I've had investors that have completely lost out on notes and have been sued and had to kind of hand the property over to the borrower just because emotionally they couldn't control themselves. And again, it's money, it's investors' money, I get it. And then you're fighting the borrower where that's where their kids are being raised. I would highly suggest against it. And that's why we don't really use that. We don't usually offer that, but we do allow lenders, like if you're someone that we know big in this space, a lot of people use Daniel Singer and his team. We let them use them because we go through Daniel to get a lot of the information. But I would never highly suggest an investor calling their own borrower. I don't even call my own.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Good point. I mean, Shanté, when you're sitting around the round table and discussing how ByFi can be better, right? I always think in my career so far that a lot of the times it's because the reason why we get anxious and need to reach out to the borrower ourselves is because we've been trying to work with our servicer for a month and a half now, and they come back with, well, I called them 17 times, I left them 14 messages, I sent them one letter, and I'm just still not getting them, but I'll keep trying. And oftentimes as the investor, you're going, no, I can't wait another month and a half for this to happen. And what seems to be crazy is, like 95% of the time, as soon as I pick up the phone the first time and dial the person, they go, hello? And I go, hi. And it's like, how could a month and a half go by and you called them 17 times and I happen to call them once and they answer? I don't know. And so I think that was that ever coming up when how's ByFi going to be better? Like
it was
when we
always
get something done,
up.
we get it done, right?
It was one of the first things that actually came up was communication was horrible on both fronts. That a lot of servicers just kind of dropped the ball. And I realized just from my experience and talking to other servicers, granted, I was very close with people at SN as well. So I was kind of like, we would bounce things off each other all the time. Of course, I know FCI, and I had kind of a person in every servicing world, so I also pick their brains. The issue that I had was what I realized was that it was kind of like how the overhead team was telling you how to reach out. And then I realized, the customer service representatives, they have X amount of loans assigned to them.
It's kind of hot out there, wasn't it?
Hey,
Okay.
you just unmuted, Des.
Oh, did I?
What I realized is that the customer service reps that are doing the outbound calling and loss mitigation, they can't have too many loans. If you want them to actually work these loans, the loss mitigation loans, they need minimal numbers to actually get these to work. So a big change that I wanted to make was, number one, with my staff, everybody in my office, they all have servicing background. Granted, they didn't all work with me. I kind of plucked them from different areas and basically watched where their strong points were. Like I have, a few different loan servicing account specialists that are really, really good at loss mitigation. But then I have one that's really good at managing bankruptcies and working with attorneys and doing the legal side. So it was one of those, figure out their strengths and how they're successful, but to also realize they can't overload their plate. They can't have 500 loans to assign to them. That's not realistic. You're not going to get to them all. So my motto is to go smaller. those relationships are very, very important. They should be very intimate between your borrowers and your lenders. They just want somebody to talk to. 9 times out of 10 borrowers do answer, but then it's also pay attention, work around their time. Most people have jobs, you know, they're working, they're raising kids. So they have like a list of questions that I remind them, figure out what time is best. There are some borrowers who are like, oh, I need to be called on a Saturday. Someone's calling them on a Saturday. That's just how that's going to work. Just because there's no reason that, you know, we're open Monday through Friday, but there are borrowers who physically are not, you know, by the phone, who can't be. So we work around them. We haven't had too much luck. And of course, you know, when you start sending letters and things like that, these borrowers start freaking out. Of course, when you start hitting their credit reports, they start to panic. Because depending on where the loan came from, it was never reported. So that's also the flip side. When you guys are looking at servicers, figure out who reports to any, if any, credit bureaus. As far as I know, there's one other. I could totally be, that could have changed, but from the last I checked, there was only one. But we don't really have issues on that. The communication was important. And I also realized people aren't touching anything, and everything we do is documented and recorded. So my staff can't sit here and lie and tell me that they called the borrower, because I will check. And it's more than just checking a conversation log. So I'm on top of them because that's a big problem. And my issue was, I'm not going to start ByFi and have the same problems everybody else is having. That just doesn't work for me.
Awesome. Susan, hang on to your hand up there and keep it up. But I have one question that's coming to mind here. You know, there's this new American Mortgage Relief Program or what have you, right, Chante, where the government's been giving every state a whole lot of money to help bail people out of delinquent mortgages and property tax bills and everything else, and catch us up as lenders and even pay future payments so that we're kind of paid up and everything. And what a great thing for people that like bought into non-performing notes that are missing a year of payments and all this, and to get these big chunk payments and move forward as performing status. And it's going to do a lot for the note industry, right? But a lot of these homeowners don't know that that program exists. And if they knew it exists and knew how to apply for it, they would probably go apply for it. And then we'd get hooked up as lenders and everybody be happy. But how can we work through our servicer, okay, in order to push and put that program in front of our borrowers' faces consistently? Is there something we put together, like we build our own flyer and then we're able to give you a copy of that flyer and you'll send it out to them? Or you guys have a way to do it? How do we put it in front of their face? Like, hey, reminder, hey, reminder, hey, reminder, you can go to apply for this program, blah, 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 and get yourself out of trouble. How do we do that the best?
We've been actually doing that with our borrowers that we're currently servicing for. And honestly, it was one of my partners who kind of sat on the phone with me one night, and I was like, we have to be able to push this stuff for people. I did actually just this past week, a woman in Oklahoma, you know, got approved. We got her money. She's paid all the way out till October. So all right, but sorry guys, I had 10-year-olds I know. So we kind of push it because our whole thing is, well, if the lender gets paid, the lender is happy, right? The problem that we run into is getting the borrower to do it, because we can't do it for them. So what we've started to do with the woman that I literally got her check on Thursday, and I was like, think he was only going to pay for her delinquency, but it brought her current, everything's together. She's good till October of this year. So another 6 months. The issue that we realized is that borrowers didn't know. So what we started to do is we start setting up meetings with the borrowers and walking them through that. What time works best for you? How do we help you? This will save you in your home, avoid foreclosure. You'll be in great standing. It's a win all around. You keep your home, you don't have to worry about it, but you have to apply. The hard part is not giving them the information, it's getting them to apply. So we will actually open the application on our end as well and walk them through what they need to plug in. They need the information. How far behind are they? Some borrowers needed a demand letter or a payoff, which means that we kind of have to jump through and give them that just because they need to show something. But it's more so getting the borrowers will always be like, yeah, I'll do it. And then here you go a week later, no, they didn't do it. So I told my team, I was like, guys, do it with them. We can't do it, but do it with them. Help them with the information. This is where you fill out your own personal information, which they should know. Here's the loan information. This is how far behind you are. Hold their hands. They don't know. You know, a lot of it's also shame. I think they're embarrassed. I think, you know, anyone losing their home or threatened to lose their home, it hits home. So it's show them that we're here to work with them. We want them to, we don't want to foreclose. Granted, they're not my loans. I don't like going through foreclosure. It's not the goal. So we just kind of do everything with them. And therefore we know it's done. We know we did this with this one woman. She got approved and we got a check very quickly. So it's more so sharing it. And I tell all these borrowers, like, okay, you know, there's a woman who lost her husband recently. She thought the house was paid off. It's not. Granted, very low balance. She can't afford it. She just buried her husband and she's older. So we're working with her to apply for the same type of assistance. Assistance is there for a reason. And as servicers, we're silly if we're not pushing it. I don't think lenders want to foreclose. You know, that's more money out of your pocket.
No, they printed free money. Like I
Yeah,
said, money's
take it.
money's fake. It's free. Just you know, like here you
Take it.
go. So yeah, and follow-up question, and then we'll get to Susan's question, but really quick one. But if I went on my design program and I designed some super cool flyer that was like real catchy looking and had the link to apply for it and all this other stuff, could we submit something like that to our servicing company? And would it be okay for our servicing company to actually mail them that flyer on behalf of their loan servicing company?
Yep. Your lender's willing to do this, here you go. I almost prefer that. There's like, it's just known, okay, like Patrick, this is what you want to offer your borrowers, send it. I have no problem printing it, mailing it, emailing it, however they need to see it, uploading it so you guys can see it on the portal. We want that interaction. We want borrowers to know that it's not, again, being the servicer, the middleman. They think that you know, you guys as lenders are the bad guys. You're not. They just don't know. So it's better to almost have something like, hey, your lender really wants you to do this. Here, take advantage of it. We'll help you. Once they hear that, they're oh my gosh, this is the best thing ever. I don't ever want to leave. And then you get the borrowers who their loan gets sold and it gets transferred and then they start to cry. How do I get it back? I can't do anything about it. But we like when lenders are proactive. You cannot be a lazy lender. That's just not part of this investment. You have to be proactive, and you should be proactive in pushing your servicers. I always tell people you shouldn't be managing them, but be in there. Like, it's okay to be in our face. I want it. If there's something that you think that I should be doing with your loans, I could be doing better, trust and believe it's not just you. I'm sure there's other investors that would benefit from something like that as well. And that's what I want to do. I don't want to be one of those servicers that, you know, we're just so stuck in, you know, ancient times. It's 2022. We should be shaking things up a little bit, trying different avenues, being creative to get a win-win solution for everybody, which means servicers need to kind of get their hands dirty.
So many good nuggets already, and I know we're running out of time. We could probably keep you on here for another hour, but we won't. But Susan and Sandy have their hands up, and we'll end with those two last questions. Go ahead, Susan.
Okay, two questions. Does the person have to be behind a certain amount of time to get these funds?
I don't know the exact stipulations, but I also had another one come in earlier this past week where the borrower was due for February.
I'm sorry, the borrower was what? Can you repeat that?
The track was due for February 2022, so just 2 months ago. As of yesterday, they were 2 months officially late with like a late charge added. They have money coming into us as well, which is also going to push them 6 months ahead as well. So the stipulations, they're not that tight. It's to get them out. And again, she was only 2 months behind. That's it.
And if I can chime in on that, I would suspect just by logic that most people who are a month or two behind are not going to spend the time to fill out the application and try to get that free money because they're not in jeopardy of any damage occurring, right? Well, I'll catch it up. It's once people get 3-4 months behind and they get the letter of intent from their servicing company that it puts the fire under their rear end. And we're going to see a lot more people in that position that are considered legally delinquent that are applying for that program. A month or two, that's going to be rare, even though Chante just ran across one, but I figured that'd be rare.
I was surprised because she wasn't that far behind.
Yeah.
I was surprised she got approved, but here's the thing, not many people are applying either. So part of me is like, oh, is it because of that? I'm not sure. I'm not the one that gets to approve them or deny them, but she got approved and we have a check coming in next week.
I'm imagining that the most of these borrowers, regular old working class folks, man, that most of these borrowers, guys, are not even going to know that this program exists. And if they knew it existed, they'd be like, hallelujah, I'm going to apply for some free monies. We get it, but they don't even know it exists. And so it really is up to us to push our servicer to push the borrower, right? Yeah, in that chain of command. So Sandy, go ahead. You have another question.
No, I'm sorry.
Oh, Susan, I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's him.
Okay, Chante, what if you have a hypothecation deal or a partial deal? Is it better for the money to come to the investor and then the investor pay the partial or hypothecation partner?
That's a good question. I have seen this handled a few different ways. So I have investors who will handle on their own to the point where I don't even know it's a partial. My business partners are notorious for that, where I have no idea it's a partial, and I'm just, here you go, here's your money. And they're like, oh yeah, I had to give this to my investor. I also have investors who will actually set up the partial loan with us. So what that means is we get the original loan, we're already servicing it, and then they sell partial. They sell us the partial agreement, or they give us the partial agreement. We set up a partial loan, which outlines whatever the partial agreement terms are, so that at that point, you don't have to worry. And when people do that, we send your partial buyer the tax forms, the 1099 tax form at the end of the year. So it depends how savvy, what I realize these investors are, how much time they have, if they have a good bookkeeper, CPA, and things like that. It can be handled both ways. It's up to you what's easier for you.
Is that an additional payment? Is that an additional servicing payment?
It is to your partial buyer. So your partial buyer is going to pay the $20 servicing fee. But here's the issue that partial buyers do run into. If the borrower stops paying, what is your agreement outline? Are you the seller going to continue to make that payment, or are they stuck waiting? Do you take the loan back? That's between the buyer and the seller. But just be aware, like, sometimes these borrowers are late. Sometimes they completely skip a month, and that will throw off your partial agreement. So,
and I will tell you this, guys, it's, if you got 1 or 2 partnership deals with some people, cool, no biggie. Once you have 10 or 15 of them, it becomes an accounting nightmare, and to send out all the 1099s at the end of the year and to do all that. And so essentially that $20 a month extra servicing fee, which, yes, it takes away from our yield. And yes, it, all those things we complain about by, oh, darn the servicing fee. But boy, I'll tell you what, at the end of the day, number one, they're going to be doing things legally by the way they should be done as a licensed debt collector, which you're not. And number 2, they keep great records. Number 3, they do the accounting and send out the 1099s. If that ain't worth $20, I don't know what is. Yeah. Go ahead, Sandy.
Yes, I just wanted to comment on the flyer that you were talking about, Patrick. I think it would probably be worth it, especially if you put some kind of gift card, promotion on there, right? Go through with this and you can get a gift card for Target, whatever those stores are in their area or hometown, right? Because you're going to get something in return for doing that. And I also wanted to say, they have to be behind at least 30 days. But for those borrowers that are behind 60 days and they're thinking, okay, I'm going to catch up, right? The marketing there is, okay, so while you're waiting to catch up, apply anyway, because it's going to be about 2 to 3 months before you get an approval. And at that point, you'll be ahead of the game. And now you have some money on the side to continue making your payments and stay on time, right?
Boom.
So that's all. That's all I wanted to say.
Boom. And listen, I'm telling you, thank you, Sandy. You're right. And I'm telling you guys, I think it's put the program in front of them clearly. Explain instructions on how to go and visit the site and apply and this, and so that it gives the people step by step, here's how it's done, and throw that flyer in front of their face. And even if you have to have Chante give them a call, right? Did you get our flyer about the new homeowners assistance program? Just making sure you got that, and just introducing it to them and giving them easy to follow instructions so that it seems very easy for them to go and do. And then most people, I think, will go take advantage of the program. If they don't know about it, and they think it's going to be tough or complicated, then people just sit stagnant and don't do. So let's push our servicers. And maybe what I'll do is I'll create a little flyer for us about the program, and I'll make it available to all the students. I'll just make a generic flyer that looks cool, and I'll post it up to our group. And that way you guys can use that through your servicing company to send to all of your borrowers, and we can all push it. So I think it's going to create a really cool wave of interesting things in this note business, Chante. You're going to see all these people, us as note investors, getting these big lump sum checks of notes that they thought were just going to be a hassle and an expense. And now we're getting hooked up, we're paid, the borrower's in good shape, we're in good shape. And I can't imagine all the people that have delinquent notes. The program takes place, us as the note owner get this big old huge lump sum of cash, and I don't know, am I going to keep that note now or just sell it as a caught up reperformer and redeploy the money? But anyways, that'll be fun. I digress. It was awesome. Sorry we lost Desi earlier. I know he came back on, and he can come back on and say goodbye to everybody. Sorry we lost you, Desi.
Hey, man, I am here, and I've been just as intrigued as everyone else down here. Shanté, hello, Shanté. Good to see you again, my
Hello,
dear.
how are you?
I'm okay. Just sitting out here sweating in the state that you moved away from, Florida.
Yeah, for that reason. Way too hot, way too many lizards. I'm good.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's sticky and hot. But hey, I'm sitting at a Dunkin' Donuts. They don't have Dunkin' Donuts out by me. And so they seem to have them all over the place here. I went in here and the guy said, look, it took him a little while to get to us. He said, I'll tell you what, it's Easter weekend. Tell me what you want. So we got 3 donuts and a drink. And he said, Happy Easter.
Oh,
Yeah, so we got it for free.
very sweet.
Funny thing is, when I was broke, I got nothing for free. Now that I can actually afford it, people
That's
give me
how it
stuff.
works.
What's up with this?
That's why you have to pay it forward. That's how those things work. Pay it forward. Go buy somebody else some donuts. And
There
coffee.
you go. I could buy somebody else a donut.
That's what I
love
do.
it. I love it. Love that idea because I feel guilty. Well, good to see you again, Chante. And thank you for this information. We're going to have Sarah go through our entire portfolio, identify the loans that might be eligible for this, get our applications in, even if they're only 60 days behind, because as you said, not many people are applying and maybe we can slip a few through.
Try it. It's not going to hurt.
Yeah, it's not going to
Chante,
hurt.
Shanté, have you found that those that do apply for this, they're also good for 6 months ahead in addition to their
The payment
arrears?
I got, the borrower was a few months behind, but with the amount of money that came in, brought her contractually current through October. Her
It was
net,
just one? It was just the one you said?
that was the one I got like 2 days ago. We only
Okay.
just started having a few borrowers apply for this. What everyone has to realize, we only opened our doors back in November. Like, so when I was out at No Expo, that was like week 1. I wasn't even in the office, which is kind of weird. But we've only recently started having borrowers apply because we're like, wait a minute. Like, we don't like dealing with foreclosure. Not saying we won't, but they're just kind of hairy. Borrowers cry and we don't like when they cry. I have a soft heart, which is why I don't talk to borrowers because I'd be like, oh, just live there for free. Who cares? And I know that's not logical. So I make the rest of my staff kind of, okay, how do we work around this, do that. You hear all the sob stories. We want to help. And most lenders want money. It's very rare that I have lenders that are like, I just want the property. They're like, oh, they're going to pay. Okay. And, they're pretty flexible. Granted, we don't get to make the decisions. We work off of you guys, but most lenders are like, I don't want to have to pay for foreclosure costs. We try to avoid having to go through the filing of the complaint stage. A lot of times demand letter sparks it. So we've had a lot of demand letters go out within the past, 30 to 45 days where borrowers, they've expired. The next thing is to file that complaint, but the borrowers have reached out. So now we're all working, whether it's doing modifications. I recently did a loan conversion from a CFD to a conventional note and mortgage, just, to help the borrowers out as much as we can. So as long as you guys are willing to do that, we're fine. Again, we work for you. You're the ones paying the fees.
Great
So.
stuff. I know that I'm just really appreciative to have you back on the call today. I appreciate you spending your time on this Saturday to come bless us with all these nuggets and stuff like that. And yes, guys, I mean, Chante was our go-to lady at Madison. We were glad that she went out and started her new thing, and we were kind of letting her get warmed up, but I think you're warmed up, Chante, and glad to see you're doing real well. So go to ByFi, BIFI. Is it ByFiLS.com or?
I'll put it in the chat for you guys.
Yeah, check it out. All her information's there. And
So let's support her.
Yeah, servicing at ByFiLS.com. If you guys want to get on there, open up your free account with ByFi and just have it sitting there as a ghost account until maybe you're ready to board your first note purchase or something like that, and you'll be ready and you can get working with Chante at ByFi. So
if you have any general servicing questions, don't hesitate to ask. You don't have to have a loan with me. You can have it somewhere else and just want a question asked. Send me an email, we'll get on a call. Perfect. I want to make sure everyone knows that, I'm open to talking to people regardless of where you have your loan serviced.
Excellent. Excellent.
Beautiful.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys.
Thank you, Chante.
Thank you, Chante.
So much.
Yeah,
Thank you.
everybody unmute. Everybody unmute and thank Chante for coming on.
Thank you,
Thank you.
You enjoy. Happy
birthday.
Thanks, Chante.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Thank you guys.
Happy
Bye,
birthday.
everyone.
Love you all. Goodbye.
Yes, guys.
God bless
Thank
you.
you guys. Thank you guys. And we'll see everybody same time, same place next weekend. Happy birthday to Shanté. Happy Easter to everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next week.
Happy Easter. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Guys.